Welcome, everyone. You're tuned into the Get Local podcast, where today we will dive into local entrepreneurship to bring you valuable insights into running a business. My name is JoAnne Fowler, and I am your host. I am a partner and also business coach with Get Local, a business community for business owners just like you. We're coming to you today from 864 Sound studio in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm so excited today because we have a special guest with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have Martine Halou-Allen. She is the founder of RIZE Prevention, which is a local nonprofit here. And so welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have been asked to be here with you.
Well, one of the things that we like to do is bring local businesses on our podcast to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do, but also about what the life is of running a nonprofit. And so, Martine, I'm so glad that you came today. I really want to just start by letting you tell me a little bit about RIZE. Tell me who is RIZE?
Well, RIZE is the kids we serve. RIZE is focused on empowering teens to resist drug use and make healthy lifestyle choices. We start at the middle school level. We also are expanding to do high school presentations that focus on fentanyl and opioid overdose awareness. But, you asked me who RIZE is, and RIZE is our kids. It's our kids and those people in the community who really understand what a crisis we have right now when it comes to teen substance use. It is the number one public health crisis in America. We have more teens that are using substances than ever before. And so it is those people that feel like, it is an issue, and they're bold enough to take that issue on and start talking about it instead of keeping it silent, which we know silence never solves any problems.
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into starting this nonprofit?
Wow. So where do I start? I'll just give you a really quick 30,000-foot view. I think that we're all affected by our experiences in life. Where we've come from, what we've been through, the challenges that we've overcome, the things that we've done well, and the things that we've not done well. And I think that, when you really find your purpose in life, it's when you can be honest with yourself and what you've been through in your life, and also be honest about who you want to be and how you want to serve this world. And so I came to doing this because of my own experiences, and also the challenges that I faced in life when I was trying to get out of those experiences, to get out of the consequences of those experiences. And I just decided to transform my life, and I learned how to do that and how to do it well. I also have seen substance use firsthand in my family in several different ways, and just saw how substance use can destroy people, destroy relationships, destroy potential. But I also saw in my life great people who loved me and who saw something in me and poured into me as a person with value and helped me to believe that. And so I brought all of those things in together when I founded RIZE. And, I looked when I was at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, is where I kind of started creating this idea. I was the community relations and correspondence director there. And my job was to look at Greenville County and say, these are the issues that the county is facing. How can the agency respond to those situations in a unique way from its using its platform. And so one of those issues that really reared its head when I was there at the time was the opioid crisis. And my question was, what are we doing to stop this from happening to more families?
Wow.
The loss of a child. I did the research, and there wasn't a lot that was being done proactively to address this issue from the upstream side, from the prevention side. And I said, isn't that where we should be working? If we understand the value of youth, i.e. they are the future, we should be working to prevent addiction before it starts.
Right.
Protecting them. So they are raised, among people that are loving and validating, rather than us just giving them to the world and then having them be subjected to all the things that the world shows them.
Right.
which oftentimes is not good.
So now how long has RIZE been established?
So RIZE was established in June of 2021. So it's rather new, but I've been doing this since 2017.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, yes, so I've been working in this realm for quite some time, been doing a lot of research, a lot of program development. I worked with the ONDCP through a technical assistance grant that was given to us to help develop our program to be evidence-based, i.e. based on evidence-based practices, right? But then I also work with the Department of Education. I also worked with phenomenal counselors who are part of the school system. They know that, they know the challenges. Because I really looked at what makes a great substance use prevention program, and all the evidence pointed to school-based. You've got to do it in schools. But what we were doing in schools and had been doing in schools for about 20 years until RIZE came along was not working, because you can't teach a child about drug prevention in 1 hour out of a school year.
So were they still, I know when I was going to school, it was the Just Say No
Right.
program. And then they had the resource officers would come in and, they would show you all of the paraphernalia, drug paraphernalia in a briefcase. Is that something that they were still doing today? Or is it just they just go in and say, don't do drugs in that 1 hour?
Well, no, not really. I mean, there are some programs that still have the DARE program, or some schools that still have the DARE program, but it's been proven ineffective because they're not approaching it. They're not giving the program in a way that children think, in the way that children make decisions. It's not based on knowledge. It's based on emotion.
You're right.
It's based on emotional need and fulfilling those emotional needs, and also the influence of the peer group, whoever that child is, associating with. But you had asked about today. So now what we're getting today is a lot more digital based, watch a video, learn this, or do like an interactive kind of lesson that's based on videos, and then you answer questions. But that does not motivate behavior change.
Right, I agree.
You can have as much knowledge as you want, but that does not transform choices. And so that's what I did with RIZE Prevention, is I wanted to focus on how do we look at the theory of behavior change, bring that into a substance use prevention program, but also focus on character development. You know what I'm saying? The what is always going to be there, and that's drugs. The supply is never ending. But how about if we can take away the demand? So the demand is taken away when you change someone's desire.
Gotcha.
When you change somebody's perceptions, their motivations about life. And so that's what we do through RIZE. Of course, we give knowledge about drugs, why they shouldn't do it, the harmful nature, but it's more about the why behind it, not so much the what.
So you've been in it for a very long time. Nonprofit's been around for a little bit. Are you seeing a rise in opioid use?
Oh, absolutely. There's 109% rise among teens that are overdosing on fentanyl. That was just last year. So the data is proving itself. And now we have a resurgence of alcohol. That had gone down for about a decade or so. Now we're seeing those numbers creep up. The vaping is out of control. Out of control. And the reason why we know that is because we talk to these kids. We talk to principals. We see firsthand what's going on in schools, whether or not, that's publicly, disseminated information. At the end of the day, you have to ask the people that are in it. You got to ask the people that are in the trenches. And it's very clear that drug use is rising, especially for vaping and cannabis use.
So do you think vaping is the number one?
Right now among teens, it is pretty much the number one. That and, not using prescription medication as it's prescribed. People have no idea how much these kids are using Xanax and, Adderall and things that are not prescribed to them. They get it from their friends. And, it's a performance enhancing, or it's a, mood altering drug. And that's what they're looking for, and it's very sad.
And who are you?
And pornography. Can I just say that?
Yes.
Pornography. We don't talk about that when we talk about drugs and substance use, but it is an addiction in itself. And I was just reading yesterday about the rise in gambling, and the kids that go on and they do the online gaming. They're gambling out of control. I mean, usually it's incredible, because that's what their brains and are being primed to do when they're doing these online games. It's like, yeah, if you get really good at this game, you could win money.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of rewiring of the brain
Yes.
that people don't understand. And so once they get those addictions, there's a lot of unwiring that you have to do.
Correct.
To get them to get back to that place to where, they don't desire or have that addiction, as you said, which
That's
it's,
right.
it's very difficult to do, but it's something that that you have to unwire, I think.
Yes. And I think people will be more sort of encouraged to address that issue more vocally if we could kind of rephrase it, change the conversation a little bit, right? So we want to focus on prevention. Prevention is the only way that you're going to solve this issue, this drug crisis in our country. Plain and simple. And changing the conversation to talk about prevention and invest in prevention. We have a $3.2 trillion federal budget that's dedicated to substance use in this country. 5% goes to prevention.
Oh, 5%.
It's abysmal. And so changing that conversation would be very good, but also changing the language that we use in our conversations. I hate the word addiction. It's true, but how about if we reframed it for people and said, you just have a need for balance. You're out of balance. You have a dependency on a substance that's rewired your brain. So now it thinks that it only can function like this in order to gain balance. But that's really what you're looking for.
Right. I
right?
agree. Yes.
And you're looking for instead of your next fix, you're looking to self-medicate. And changing that language to say, we want to take these kids, and I would love to take anybody. You know, I'm an adolescent addiction and motivation coach, but I can work with anybody. I want to take them ultimately from destructive self-medication to constructive self-regulation. That's the power.
Martine.
That's the power.
Yes. So you mentioned the schools. Who are your partners, community partners that you work with?
So right now we work with Greenville County Schools. We work with Anderson District 1, Spartanburg 7, Lawrence 55, and Pickens County. And we also work with some charter schools.
Oh, that's fantastic. So do you guys go into the schools? Do the schools call you, the resource officers? How do you get involved with the schools?
That is such a great question. So we get involved with the schools just by starting a conversation with either school districts or the principals. It just depends on how that works for that school district, who's got the decision-making power there. And we do go into schools for 6 months at a time.
Oh.
And we have a set program that we do that follows my breakthrough follow-through methodology. It's a signature methodology that I'm testing and currently evaluating. So what I've done is I've brought in all of these evidence-based practices, but I've put it together into a comprehensive school-based program that's innovative in the approach, right? So we go in, and that 6 months is absolutely necessary because you cannot have a one-and-done presentation and think that it's going to have a lasting impact.
Right.
You cannot have a child watch one video, answer a couple of questions, and think that, yeah, you've done the miracle work of having these kids never want to use drugs. It doesn't work like that, you know? So we believe that time is essential. And so we've developed this program with schools, okay, who have also put in their 2 cents, if you would, into this. We value that. They have what's called the multi-tiered systems of support within a school. So it's how do you respond to a student in need, right? Different things that they need, whether it's substance use or maybe it's teen pregnancy or whatever it is. They've got mental health issues. So how do you respond to that? So we've made our program be able to fit into that system, to work hand in hand with the school to where they refer to us as a resource.
Perfect.
So now you don't have a principal or administrator that has the stress of, oh my gosh, I've got to get this kid help and I have nowhere idea where to go. Now they've got RIZE prevention that's on their side. But more than that, it's the time that we take to build the relationships with the students. That 6-month period is awesome. They get to know who we are. They get to develop relationships with us, our student liaisons. They come to trust us. They come to have conversations with us. They're okay with that, whether they tell us they're vaping and they want to stop, or because of you, I stopped doing this, or whether it's just telling us about their life, you know, and just kind of having somebody to talk to, you know, it's power. It's real power. And we see that the power of relationship goes a long way. And so I can't tell you the value of building relationships. And I want to say this too. How many minutes a day do you think the average parent spends talking to their child?
I think it's a lot less than it should be. Maybe 30 minutes.
9 minutes.
9 minutes. That's frightening.
9 minutes a day. So that means that the rest of the time, that child is being spoken to by other people, by social media,
for sure,
by what they're seeing on television, you know? So, and parents have to reclaim their influence in their children's lives. They are the most protective factor in their children's lives.
Absolutely.
You know, parents or mentors So that's also why I designed the iRIZE program. So it's the iRIZE program that goes into schools. That's why I made it the way that I did, because I did a lot of research on the evidence-based practice of mentoring and what benefits that brings. So just in case the parent isn't there, and we also have parent components that encourage the parents to come on in, have a conversation with us. Let's talk about this. Let's help you with your child. Let me teach you the things that you may not already know as a parent.
So that's great. So you involve your parents in the program as well.
Absolutely.
So do the parents come to the school?
Yes, they do. So we do parent presentations. So we'll do that in the evening. We also, we'll cater dinner and give away some prizes, encourage participation. But it is incredible how many parents attend our presentations and they cry.
Oh, wow.
They cry because they're like, oh my gosh, finally somebody that understands where I'm coming from and wants me to speak about it and doesn't judge me for not being a perfect parent. It's like, guess what? Newsflash, nobody's a perfect parent. We're all in this together.
Right.
And so, sharing this information with parents is really important, and parents who come there because they're really struggling. They're either struggling with their child or maybe they have a substance use problem themselves and they've never been able to deal with that properly. And so, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So, Martine, your 6-month course that you're teaching in the schools, is it a course that they select, or does everybody have to go through it like a health class? How is that set up in the school?
That's a great question. So, students can opt out. So parents can opt out, but we have very, very few opt-outs.
That's great.
It is not a curriculum, but it teaches so much knowledge. That curriculum-based, the proven curriculum-based drug prevention education takes about 10 to 13 hours to teach. And there's just not enough time for that. So our program is a combination of a few things. So 2 major presentations. We also visit, during the lunch visits, we visit like 6 to 8 times a year. Okay, or sorry, in that 6 months. We also have a pledge to be drug-free, which we promote to the students. That is awesome. I mean, our goal last year was 50%, and that the tipping point is about 27%.
Yes.
So 27% of a population, if you can get them on board, all of a sudden you're going to have that collateral sort of positive effect, residual effect, however you want to say it. Last year, our goal was 50%. We got 60% last year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And then we reaffirm the program in 7th grade, and then we reaffirm in 8th grade. So you're going to have this program for 3 years. That's the goal. The goal is you reaffirm, reiterate, get these kids to come on board, change their thinking, be a part of a positive peer pressure group, right? Which is 60% of your classmates are in the iRIZE club.
Wow.
Which means that more kids are not doing substances that are doing. You get what I'm saying?
You're changing the future, Martine.
I
future
pray
generations.
so.
You really are. You're changing the future.
I pray that.
Well, it sounds like you're in a lot of schools, which is fantastic. But that means you probably have more and more staff that you're having to add as you're making those 6 to 7 visits into the school.
Yes.
Gas, transportation, salaries, all of that stuff.
Correct.
So who's your perfect donors? I mean, you mentioned earlier that you received a grant.
Yes.
So are you all grant funded, or do you need donations from the community?
Actually, we are grant funded to an extent, but we get a lot from the community. I have to give a shout out to Honey Day. Honey Day and Not My Boys, they chose us this year, and that was pure community driven fundraising. And we need the community to come in with us because this is a community issue. And if we really want to promote change, the community has to be involved. The government's not going to solve this problem. The schools are not going to solve this problem. They don't have a magic wand. Law enforcement is not going to solve this problem. You can't arrest yourself out of this problem, right?
Right.
It's the community that has to change its mindset. And so we want the community, individual donors to be more involved. And I'm so thankful that you asked me this because I would like to talk about today. We're about to launch a $5 a month donation campaign. $5 a month, $60 a year pays for the iRIZE program for a student.
That's fantastic.
That's it. That's a Starbucks coffee a month.
Right.
Not even.
Less than, yeah.
Exactly. So for that, and I want the community to be involved. I want the community to care about prevention. I want for people to say it is our job to work on the front end of this. It's our moral obligation to take care of these kids. I did a post the other day about a teen that's in the hospital, had to be put in a coma because he smoked a laced vape. It was laced with fentanyl. He still can't feel out of his left arm. He almost died. There's an assault on our children. There's an assault on our children. And we have to stand up and say no more. If that means parents reclaiming their authority in their home, they've got to. Because if you're going to let the world raise your kids, you're not going to like the result.
Right.
It's catastrophic. We're seeing it now. We have got to take back ownership and really care about these kids and understand that really what they're looking for is love and validation. And if they're being deprived of that, they're going to other means to get that.
Right.
Because we need it to survive. So yes, individual donors, very, very important to us. If I could be completely funded by the community and individuals, I would love that.
That would be
That means we're
great.
making a change.
Well, I know you're extremely passionate, and you can see that in your voice, inflection, in your actions, everything that you're saying. And I think that's probably one of the things that you would say as a quality that you'd have to have if you want to start a nonprofit. Get local. One of the things that we do is we love local businesses, whether it's veteran-owned, woman-owned, any other trade-owned. It doesn't really matter, nonprofit. But there's a lot of people out there who are saying there's a need in my community, and I'm passionate about that need. So what would you tell someone if they wanted to start a nonprofit? What would your advice be?
Oh, do your research. Do your research on the need. Do your research on the temperature of the community to respond to that need. Because it has not been, I'm just going to give you, just a personal feedback here. Substance abuse prevention is not a sexy topic. And it's very, very hard to get people to start talking about it, destigmatize that, right? So I knew that I was going to go into it with a, challenge, I knew that it was going to be a challenge. So I had set myself up properly to get champions on board at first that could sustain me until I got the message out there, until the community started responding to that, right? They got to hear a message 10, 20 times for them to respond to that. And now we're starting to see that strategy play out, and it's going well. So I'm starting to get people go, oh yeah, RIZE prevention. Now I know, oh yeah, absolutely. We got to talk about that. But in the beginning, crickets. Crickets, The only people that really understood this were the people that had lost children, unfortunately. And the people say, yes, I've been touched by this. There's so many people that say, well, this doesn't apply to me. Yes, it absolutely does. It does apply to you, because these are kids in your community that would have been a part of your future.
Wow.
Right? And if we believe, as we do at RIZE, and I'm sure that you do, JoAnne, knowing you a bit, that everybody has a purpose that is unique and that is valuable. And so whether I know you or not, if you're no longer part of this world physically, or if you can't be a part of this world because you have a substance use issue that's debilitated you to the point where you can't participate in society, or you can't be productive, or let's say you have a mental health issue that has been compromised also by substance use, you not being a part of society matters because your purpose is not being fulfilled.
Right.
And so it does have an impact on me. And quite frankly, every single presentation that I've ever gone to, when I've asked the public audience, when I've asked the audience, hey, how many of you, raise your hand, how many of you have someone, in your life that has a substance use disorder or who has overdosed? 9 out of 10 people raise their hands.
Wow.
So it does matter,
Yeah.
and it is relevant. So I would just say that's the advice that I would give. Stick to your passion. Don't let anybody take that away from you. You know why you're doing this. Keep on the right track and be very diligent about finding your initial champions and understand the power of a good board.
Yeah. What about someone who maybe has a nonprofit and their nonprofit is struggling? I don't know if RIZE has ever had any struggles at all since you began. Times maybe that you wanted to quit.
Oh, come on, of course.
So, what if you're a nonprofit out there and you feel like you're at the place you want to quit? What advice would you give?
I would give this advice just personally, because yes, ma'am, we have been at that point many times, at that juncture of, are we going to make it? Are we going to get the funding that we need to continue? And I always go back to why I started, right? So why did I start this to begin with? And then I also go back to my God, my Lord, who has made a way when there was no way. I go back to those times where he has shown me who he is and his providence, right? Because I built this on the truth of what his word says, and I just go back to him and I say, Lord, this is yours. I can't fear. And I have to also accept that if the time has run and the season is done, that I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because I also know that there's something else for
Mm-hmm.
me. And I have to be at peace about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that doesn't dominate me, right? The worry about that doesn't dominate me. Because a lot of times we can be so counterproductive in worrying about how to fix a problem or worrying about how to find a solution that we actually mess it up, because we've got our hands all in it trying to be controlling. And sometimes it's just let go, right?
Well, you said something earlier that I think it ties it all together. And you said we all have a purpose. And sometimes our purpose might be to, take RIZE prevention, for 10 years, but it could be to take RIZE prevention for 3 years or 2 years. But that doesn't mean that God's done with us, right?
That's right.
He's got another purpose for us, and he's going to use us in wherever that is. So,
Absolutely.
If that time is done for a nonprofit founder that may be listening, have hope, because there's something else that another purpose that God may have for them in that next journey that they're on.
That's right. Or there may be a lesson that needs to be learned, that has to be learned during struggle. And for you to pull back and have faith, something beautiful may come out of that will then take your nonprofit 2 steps forward. You don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But, certainly worrying about it doesn't do any good. Hey, listen, I
any
tried for decades to worry myself into success and
Right.
it never works.
It never works.
Yeah.
So, well, I love your thought process on that. Thank you for sharing that advice to our listeners. I want to close with a really funny question for you. And
Okay.
I didn't tell any of my guests what this question was, but if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
If I could have one superpower, it would be something that would benefit people for the rest of their lives. I would want for people to learn how to change their perspective and how to renew their minds so they would be connected to their creator and their purpose, because we did not create ourselves. And so therefore we do not know why we are here. And my superpower would be to open people's minds so they connect authentically with their creator so that they can see their purpose.